Eastbury College would have a freshman class next year after all. Sally straightened up the desk and went upstairs. She was about to go into the bedroom when she paused, listening. The house was silent, as it always was at that time of night. She listened for a moment, then went on into the bedroom and began undressing. The near total darkness was broken only by the faint glow of a streetlight half a block away. She slipped into bed next to Steve, and his arms came out to hold her. She snuggled in, resting her head on his shoulder, her fingers twining in the mat of blonde hair that covered his chest. She pressed herself closer to Steve and felt his arm tighten around her. She closed her eyes, ready to drift off to sleep, content in the knowledge that everything was as close to perfect as she could ever have wanted it, despite what her mother might think. And then she was wide awake again, her eyes open, her body suddenly rigid. Had she heard something? Maybe she should wake Steve. No. Why wake Steve when she was already awake? She slipped out of his arms and put on a robe. In the hall, she stood still, listening carefully, trying to remember if she had locked the doors earlier. She had. The silence gathered around her, and she could hear her heart beating in the darkness. What was it? If there was nothing, what was she afraid of? She told herself she was being silly and turned back to the bedroom. Still, the feeling would not go away. I'll look in on the children, she decided. She moved down the hall to Jason's room and opened the door. He was in his bed, the covers twisted around his feet, one arm thrown over the teddy bear he still occasionally slept with. Sally gently freed the covers and tucked her son in. Jason moved in his sleep and turned over. In the dim glow from the window, he looked like a miniature version of his father, his blonde hair tangled, his little jaw square, with the same dimple in his chin that Sally had always thought made Steve look sexy. How many hearts are you going to break when you grow up, Sally wondered. She leaned over and kissed Jason gently. "Oh, Mom," the little boy said. Sally pretended to scowl at her son. "You were supposed to be asleep." "You're always kissing me," Jason complained. Sally leaned down and kissed him again. "Be glad someone does. Not every kid is so lucky." She straightened up and started out of the room. "And don't kick the covers off, you'll catch pneumonia." She left Jason's room, knowing he'd kick the covers off again, and that he wouldn't catch pneumonia. If Julie grew up as healthily as Jason had, she would be twice blessed. As she approached Julie's room, she began trying to calculate the odds of raising 2 children without having to cope with any sicknesses. The odds, she decided, were too narrow to be worth thinking about. She let herself into the room, and suddenly her sense of apprehension flooded back to her. She crossed to the crib and looked down at Julie. In the dim light, the baby's skin was pale, nearly white, and Sally thought she looked cold, though the pink blanket was still tucked around her shoulders, as Sally had left it earlier. Sally frowned. Julie was an active baby, never lying still for very long. Apparently, she hadn't moved for more than an hour. Sally reached down and touched Julie's face. It was as cold as it looked. As she picked up her tiny daughter, Sally Montgomery felt her life falling apart around her. It wasn't true. It couldn't be true. She was cold. That's all, just cold. All she had to do was cuddle the baby and warm her, and everything would be all right again. Sally Montgomery began screaming, a high, thin, piercing wail that shattered the night. Steve Montgomery stood in the doorway staring at his wife. Sally, what's wrong?" He moved forward tentatively, watching her as she stood near the window, rocking back and forth, muttering in a strangled voice to the tiny form in her arms. Then he was beside her, trying to take the baby out of her arms. Sally's hold on the child tightened, and her eyes, wide and beseeching, found his. "Call the hospital," she whispered, her voice desperate. "Call now. She's sick. Oh, Steve, she's sick." Steve touched Julie's icy flesh, and his mind reeled. No, she can't be. He turned away and started out of the room, only to be stopped by Jason, who was standing just inside the door, his eyes wide and curious. "What's wrong?" Then he looked past Steve toward his mother. "Did something happen to Julie?"